Welcome to the Connecting the Dots podcast with your host, Lee Ashby Watts. Our podcast is committed to delivering marketing, branding, and strategy advice for the small business owner. And now, let's start connecting the dots.
Well, hello. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. This is Lee Watts. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been, I am so sorry to say, quite a while since I have come on and recorded a podcast for you. Life got really busy, but honestly, that's no excuse at all. I have the personal goal to definitely record more podcasts, bring more information to you, and I want to continue to do that and really just hold myself accountable. But we're not going to focus on the past right now. We're going to focus on the future and get right into it. So one of the topics that I really wanted to come and just elaborate on today, get you all to think about and, really get clear on, because I think the majority of my audience thinks about this. It is one of their goals and one of my personal goals as well. And that is to have more influence. And sometimes when we have referred to that term in the past, it can sound like, I think in the past it sounded like kind of a bad word, like, what do you mean you want more influence? But really influence, John Maxwell, the great John Maxwell, has talked about how pretty much every leader should have influence. Because ultimately what it comes down to is influence is about changing or convincing or having some type of impact on the way that people behave, act, buy, any of their behavior, right? And so, we have to think about, if that is the goal, if we want to have impact, if we want to influence people to change a behavior, and that could be a good thing, right? We see a lot of things that need to be maybe corrected or discussed or brought to light, or changes that need to happen. And to think that if you've built time perfecting your influence, how that could impact a whole culture, a whole company, a whole community, a society. So wanting to have influence can be a really great thing. And if you are a leader, then definitely making sure that you have the characteristics and the qualities that will help you to influence others. You definitely don't want to be a leader that isn't able to have impact or to change behavior or to lead people down a different path. You want to make sure that you can influence other people. So today I am going to talk about different characteristics and qualities that we need to influence others. And one of the first characteristics that I want to talk about is honestly one of my favorite, if you know anything about me, and that is clarity, right? So I love talking about clarity. I really just want to change my title to a clarity coach because that is my thing. I believe that there is very little that can be done effectively without being very clear and absolutely certain on your next steps. And the thing about clarity, and one of the reasons why it is a quality that we need if we want to have influence, is that people crave clarity and certainty in their leaders and the people who are trying to influence them. So it's like one of those things where it's contagious. When you see someone who is certain, confident, very clear on the next steps, and sometimes it's not even the right step necessarily, but their certainty, their confidence, their clarity helps us to feel safe and sure and excited about the next steps. Now, I am not going to get into politics on my podcast or anywhere on my brand. That is just not my thing. But I will say I believe that was some of the power that our former President Trump had. Whether he was right or wrong, he made us believe that he was absolutely certain and clear on what he needed to do. And sometimes people just want to see that type of clarity in leadership, and that goes a long way with influence. So think about what your brand is, what your messaging is, the impact that you want to have on people around you, and think about how clear you are on those things. How clear do you discuss it and you talk about it and you put certain messages out there? What kind of energy are you giving that? And if you have absolute certainty, if you have clarity, if you show your conviction about certain things, I guarantee you, you are having influence on other people. So another characteristic with influence is passion. And that is, honestly, we've seen passionate people, people who are excited and convinced and bringing a lot of energy and effectiveness when they speak, and not just even when they speak, but when they walk in the room. So how passionate are you about the things that, again, you are trying to impact in your world, things that you're doing, your business, your organization, your book, your ministry, all of those things? How passionate are you about it? Because if you're not passionate about it, very few other people will bring that same type of passion. So you have to set the stage. It begins with you. People who are trying to influence others have to be passionate about the things that they are discussing and the things that they want to continue moving down the line. So, and it affects our communication. So when you're communicating, how much energy and passion are you bringing to it? So find a way to get into that zone when you know you have to talk about your business, your book, your ministry, your personal brand, whatever it is. And you get, as I talked about with the first point, you get clear, convicted, certain about what you want to say, and that you also bring passion. All right, so another key quality in having influence with people around you is that you have to have a vision. You have to be a visionary, because when you think about influence, that is normally not something that's happening right here at this second, at this moment. Influence is very visionary. It's long-term. It is looking at a real impact for the future, right? So you have to look beyond where you are. You can't get bogged down with the things that are happening to the business, to your industry, in society, in the world at this very second. You can't get distracted by those things. You have to have an extraordinary vision and a big dream for where you want to take people. One of my favorite things is watching people give hope to people, like real hope, not just fake hope, right? But real hope and energy and vision and passion, because that is what honestly can change a life. When they feel like they have hope and that they can do something extraordinary, that they can actually do it. That will change a mindset, that will change a behavior. And guess what? That is influence. It is influencing people to make a behavior change. So to really stand out and influence others, you have to have a vision, and you have to know how to grab and capture the hearts and minds and energies of other people around you. And as I mentioned before, as we're building on this, one of the things is definitely confidence and clarity. You have to have passion when you're communicating, and you definitely have to have a vision. And then finally, I'm going to end with one of the other really important points in being a person of influence is you have to have courage. I might add one more point because this kind of ties into courage. You have to have courage to act, again, on things that other people may not believe can happen. You may be like Noah in the Bible, right? Building the ark, although there's no rain coming, it hasn't rained in years, and people are teasing you like, what in the world are you thinking? But you have that vision, right? You have a vision of where you want to go, what you want to do, and not only do you have that vision, you're willing to lay it all out. You have the courage and faith to act. So having the courage doesn't mean that you don't get fearful. In fact, having courage means you do it in spite of the fear. In spite of the fear. And the faith doesn't mean that you're perfect in how you think about this thing, and that, again, there's no doubts, but you're acting despite the doubts, despite the fear. And when you're a leader and an influential leader, you know you have to influence people, that people are going to follow you, and that you're convincing people to act. You have to take the risk alongside people and show that I'm willing to go with you. I'm willing to believe as big as you're willing to believe. That is inspirational, and that is really, really necessary if you want to be an influential leader. And then finally, one more thing, you have to have persistence. Because if you're really talking about, again, impact and being influential for other people, it takes time. It takes time, number one, to build trust, for people to trust you enough to want to follow you and believe you. You've got to build it brick by brick. And that takes time. And more than likely, it is doing something and pushing something that seemingly seems immovable. But you have the persistence, you have the vision, you have the passion and conviction to keep going. And people are watching you and wanting to do it with you. So keep going and staying persistent and focused on the goals at hand. So do you want to be a person of influence? Do you want to impact behavior and change hearts and minds and societies and people and lead them to something greater? Think about your current brand and what you're doing. As a leader, as a business owner, how are you having and making lasting change with your business, with the way that you speak or with the way that you write? It happens first. You've got to have it in your head, what you want to do, and have that vision. And then you've got to pull that thing into your heart and have that passion and understand the emotion that you have to tap into to your audience to get them to see the burden, to see the problem, and want to make a change. And then you've got to get busy. You've got to be willing to do the work. So do you want to be a person of influence? On my next podcast, I will talk about the importance of, honestly, when it comes to marketing and branding, content marketing, and helping to build that influence with other people. Because again, people have to understand you and find out or have that credibility built. And how are they going to see that? How are they going to know that? A lot of that comes through your content marketing, whether it's on your website, on your social media, your videos, all of that. How are you building that reputation, that credibility where you can actually have influence? So I hope that this was helpful to you and that you found some tidbits that might help support what you're doing. Please let me know. I'd love to hear more if this podcast was helpful and if you are a person of influence. And you might have another tip that I could add to this on what makes an influential leader, some qualities or characteristics. So again, thank you so much. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. That's Lee, Lee _ Ashby and Watts, or visit my website at ashbyandwatts.com. And I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you so much, and you all have an amazing day.